So welcome along to the foundation. Now hopefully for most of you, you've all been working from home. Some of you might be out and be essential workers, but a lot of you will be working from home right now. And so you will be familiar with this little picture here. Which when you're coming on being audio only, this is how you're going to show up versus how you're going to show up for video. So I know you got all dressed up and put your makeup on, but I am just going to, if you have got your camera on, just to turn it off. And the reason for that is just, I don't know if you guys noticed yesterday, but our bandwidth doesn't go quite as far as I had hoped it would. So if you're homeschooling kids and trying to watch this at the same time, as well as it's trying to stream your video, it will get shut down. So hopefully this, you can still see my little face in the corner up here, and you can see my screen, no problem at all. Any questions as we head along, just hit me up in the chat box, and sorry, and we will go from there. She said not being able to find the chat box. Just hit me up in the chat box and I will answer any questions as we go along, and I will have plenty of time for questions at the end. So if you've got any questions, we can answer those at the end for you. So that's just the housekeeping bit. Welcome along. I'm looking forward to sharing this all with you as we head through the day. I'm super excited about the foundation. It wasn't intended to be launched inside a pandemic, but it actually fits beautifully, because right now, for some of you, it feels like the whole world is on fire, and you're looking around to hang your hat on whatever thing you can to give yourself some success, to give yourself some support. And what I'm here to tell you is that is something that you've got complete access to, regardless of where you are. So who am I? My name's Sarah Greener. Some of you on the call know who I am. This is a photo of me with my husband Johnny and our little girl Scarlett, who's 7. And I've grown up in and around businesses. My husband and I have owned a business for 12 years. Here in the Bay of Islands, funnily enough, in the tourism industry. So we obviously have a wee bit of time on our hands right now in that particular area. I grew up around business as well. I always wanted to be in business. I loved the idea, the challenge, the having to work out innovatively, change the way that you were doing things. I just love the challenge. I love the challenge of my own business. And now that I'm coaching, I love the challenge of other people's businesses as well. So I've been doing this. I've owned multiple businesses, and I've been coaching for 4 years now with all sorts of people here in New Zealand and the world as well, and I absolutely love it. I just get an absolute buzz out of it, and I hope that today, unstable internet connection, hopefully not too unstable, hopefully today in this hour and a half I can give you some really quick, simple, actionable things that you can go away and do without spending any money, that will help you really step up during this pandemic. One thing I get told all the time is, but you've got a business degree, Sarah. Yeah, I do. I have a business degree. I spent 4 years of my life and at least $40,000 getting a business degree. I majored in accounting and marketing. At the time I was working as an accountant. It's a little secret, don't tell too many people. And that should have given me instant business success, right? Well, wrong. It didn't give us instant business success. All the information that I learned in my degree was pretty out of date pretty quickly. In fact, I'm sure it was all out of date by the time we bought our first business back in 2007. And it certainly was out of date when the GFC happened. The stuff that I learned in my business degree, look, it was useful. It saves me a couple of $1,000s maybe with my accountant each year, and it gives me some skills and tools to ask some great questions, but it's nothing that in 2020 you can't go and find online and learn for free. And it certainly didn't stop us making the mistakes. It certainly didn't stop us spending the money, spending the time, or going down a completely wrong path just because I had a business degree. And so the thought that you need more than what you've already got just isn't the case. However, what I would have paid $40,000 for was to get these pillars that I'm going to talk to you about today. It's the pillars of your business owner's identity, because your business success is all about you and the things you're in control of. And so right now, when everything feels like it's completely out of our control, we still have complete and utter control over one thing. And that's ourselves. It's how we show up. It's the thoughts that we're allowing ourselves to have. It's the feelings that we're allowing ourselves to feel. And it's the actions that we're taking. And how you're showing up right now is going to determine how successful you are in surviving this pandemic and surviving this crisis and surviving 4 weeks of working from home with your family and homeschooling children and those sorts of things. It's going to all come down to how are you showing up, because we're in control of those things. And there are 3 things that make up the pillars of your business owner's identity. And see, here's the thing. I've spent 12 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars working this out. So I would have absolutely paid $40,000 to somebody to teach me that this stuff's really, really important. So the 3 pillars of your business owner's identity are your inner game, your influence, and your investment. So right now, we're taking some current actions and we're getting some current results. If we can all agree that our current actions are getting our current results. Here's the thing, most of us want different results. That's why we show up, that's why we learn, that's why we go out and take different actions to get different results. So if you want different results, you're going to have to take different actions. And in 2020, the challenge is for us is that we often know what the right actions to take are, right? There's so much free resource out there in terms of tactics, in terms of strategy that you can go and download, you can go and find them, and so that you can know what actions to take. You know, in a pandemic, here's the 10 things that you should do, like tactical things that you can do, the actions you can take. But just like with anything in our life, and I always go back to weight and health because it's a really simple one. I know what I have to do to be fit and healthy and lose some weight. It's to eat the apple instead of eating the chocolate. And then I'll get the result that I want. I will be smaller and fitter and more vibrant. But so often I don't. So often I choose the chocolate over the apple. And so it feels a little bit like taking the action, which is putting your foot on the accelerator, and then at the very same time putting your foot on the brake. And it's very, very hard to drive a car when you've got a foot on the brake. And it's the same thing you're doing in your life. You're going, I know what the actions are. I want to put my foot down on the accelerator, and then you're immediately putting your foot on the brake. And the reason that you're doing that is because of not taking the action. So what I want to talk about today is doing something today that your future self will thank you for, because the actions and decisions you take today will shape the way that we're going to be living in the future. And not just the way that we'll be living, the way that our families will be living, the way that our communities will be living, the way that our whole country will be living. So it's really, really important that we really take great actions right now. And the way that we take that foot off the brake is by working on our identity. What our identity is, what our inner game is, the things that we're thinking. You know, you can use all sorts of different language around this. Is it the mindset that you've got? Is it the stories that you're telling yourself? Is it the belief? Is it the thoughts? Is it the feelings? All of those things make up the identity that we need to be as business owners right now to allow us to step into the actions that we need to take that'll get us the results we want. And so if we want different results, we need to take different actions, which means actually we need to have a different identity right back at the beginning. So if I talked about your identity and you thought about the person, if you imagined the person that is getting all the results you want right now. So if it's the person that is getting 8 hours of work done while the kids are getting homeschooled, but the house is still clean and tidy, it could be the person that's having time to go out and have some personal space time, because when we're all stuck in one house, that's important. It's getting out to do some exercise and then coming back and taking actions in their business. I want you to imagine the person that is getting the results you want to see right now in your life and in your business, and think about what is their identity. And sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. And so this is a really great quote from old mate Tony Robbins. The quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of questions that you are asking yourself. So what I want to do is give you some questions. So if I met this person and I was imagining what their inner name was, which is the pillar of your business owner's identity, if I met that person that's getting all the results that you want to get in your business and your life right now, who would I see in front of me? And these are really great questions to start jotting some notes down to. How do they show up? How do they feel? Like, what emotion, what state are they bringing to what they're doing each and every day? What are they feeling on a consistent basis? Not just once or twice, but all day. Are they feeling panicked and stressed out? I hope not, because that's dropping half of your brain function away. We just don't operate well in fear because we go into fight or flight mode. And right now we want to be making calm, conscious decisions. So how does that person that's getting all the results you want feeling on a consistent daily basis? What do they believe to be true? And this is just so important, because we make up our beliefs. We make up these stories that we tell ourselves repetitively. So what do you believe to be true? What do they believe to be true about their life? What do they believe to be true about their business, about their relationships? What do they believe to be true about their health and well-being? All those beliefs are going to make up the inner game of your business owner identity. And they're going to be the things that are going to help you drive you forward to make the right actions. Because if you believe business is hard right now, then you're going to feel stuck, which means you're probably going to stick your head in the sand, hop under the duvet with some Netflix and chill. If you believe business is supposed to be challenging and it's an intellectual game, and that you will get through this, because I know that we will get through this, because we've got so much evidence to show that the economy and businesses survive through whatever is thrown at them because of the cyclical nature of our economy. So what do you believe to be true? What do they believe is possible? What's available to us? What's possible for you right now? Because when that belief of possibility is far more open rather than contracted, we are able to take much better actions in our business. What are they saying to themselves? This person that has everything that you want. You might know this person. It might be someone that you're envisaging in your mind that's a mentor, or a person that's, a great way of thinking about this is kind of someone who's 10 years ahead of you from where you want to be in your business and your life right now. What is that person saying to themselves each day? Because we've all got those inner voices, and, we've all got that inner critic, that inner mean girl that's telling us, or that mean guy that's telling us the nasty things we don't need to hear right now. The person that's got everything, that's got all of those results that you want to have, that's behaved the way that you want to behave in a pandemic, what do they say to themselves? Are they beating themselves up? Or have they got a rock star cheerleader on the inside that's showing them how they can get through this in a calm, confident, and decisive way? Whatever is going outside in the environment, remembering that we don't have any control over the decisions the government is making right now, and we don't have any control over the virus other than our actions, which is to stay home and keep people safe. What actions does this person that has all your results, what actions are they taking on a daily basis? And who are they spending the most time with? So I know some of you are furiously taking notes as I'm racing through those questions. furiously. So what I'm going to say is, don't worry too much if you didn't get all those questions down. What I'm going to do after this webinar is I'm going to send you out a little worksheet that will have all those questions in for you. And those of you that have worked with me before, you know I'm a little fan of homework. And the reason I'm a fan of homework is because nothing works unless you work it. Showing up here today is awesome, and I love that you've given me your time, because I believe that's your most precious resource. But it's a little bit like having the gym tag on your keys and thinking that that's going to help you get fitter and stronger. Nothing works unless you work it. So this is like me describing to you what a bicep curl is, but then you guys never ever doing a bicep curl. So you've got to go and do the work. So for me, what I would love for you to do right now that will help you show up in your business owner's identity is to take 5 minutes, ideally every day, and ideally first thing in the morning, because it shapes how you step into your day, to write a paragraph of what that version of you looks like, that business owner's identity that is getting all the results you want. Write that story down, what they believe, how they talk to themselves, how they behave, and how they show up in their lives, and how they feel on a consistent basis. And like I say, I will send you out a worksheet with all the questions I was asking before so that you can go through them and do them each morning if you'd like to. Now, that might be a little tricky, and you might be going, oh my God, Sarah, what are you talking about? So let me give you a wee little example of my one. Now, this is my version, and yours doesn't have to be the same, but let me tell you what it looks like for me right now. Physically, it looks like someone who gets up and still goes to work like she's going to work. She gets up, she gets dressed, she puts her makeup on. Guys, you don't have to put makeup on if you don't want to, but I'm going to show up not in my trackies, but in my work clothes like I was going to work each and every day. I believe that life is happening for us and that there's opportunities in every challenge, even in a pandemic. I believe that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and I believe that life is happening for me, not to me. I'm saying to myself all the time that I am fantastic. I'm doing a great job, and look at how much you've achieved already and how much more you're going to achieve in the future because of all the new skills and tools they have. You're doing a great job. You're showing up as a fantastic leader for your team and for your family and for your wider community clients. I'm behaving by following my rituals every day. Each and every day I get up and I meditate, I journal, I read a book that's putting in some good information into my brain. I visualize my goals like they're done. I move my body, I put some good fuel into it, and I take those actions every morning. And I feel calm. And I feel confident, and I feel positive and passionate that what I'm doing makes a difference right now. And I feel vibrant and energetic about my life and my business. So that's a little short snippet of what I'm journaling on and I'm writing on first thing in the morning, every morning, about my business owner's identity right now. Now, but I've been doing that for lots and lots and lots of days, hundreds of days I've been writing and working on my business owner's identity. So you're not going to have it that locked down right now. But even if you just write some bullet point answers to those questions, then you'll be just fine. You'll get that sorted for you over time. And then once you've done that paragraph, I want you to ask yourself this question each and every day, even multiple times per day. So what can I do today, right now, to embody, and then you put your description in there, my business owner's identity. Or you can call it your business owner's identity. That's my language for it. But what's your language? Or your business leader's identity, whatever works for you. What can I do today, right now, to step in, to behave as if I am that business owner already? And I use this often. So I use this when I'm faced with a decision. What would the future Sarah Greener, the business owner's identity that I'm stepping into, what would they do right now? What action would they take? And then I go and do that. And it helps me frame what I need to be doing in the moment. I talked briefly there about who they spend their time with, their identities, these business owners with their identity. And you would have heard this quote. This is one I love. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? And so this is what influence is about. Influence is the second circle, and I often refer back to Stephen Covey's model and his circles of influence. So the inner circle for him is what you can control, which is yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. The second circle out is what can you influence? And as a general, keeping it really general and quite zoomed out, what you can influence are other people's thoughts, feelings, and actions. What you have to remember here is that second circle of influence, what you can influence, other people's things, other people's thoughts, other people's feelings, other people's actions, also happens back to you. So other people that you're spending your time with are influencing you. Now, it's a fascinating area of study. And the first major study of the breadth of social influence was conducted by 2 gentlemen called Nicholas, and I excuse my pronunciation because it might not be quite right, Christakis and James Fowler. And they looked at some data from something that was really simple because there was numbers that they could measure it on. And so they looked at obesity, and they were looking at the effects of the family members and friends that you have to see how that impacts your outcomes, your likelihood of becoming obese. And so I love the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. But these statistics blow my mind because they tell me I have to actually not just audit and look at who I'm hanging out with, but who those people are hanging out with and who those people are hanging out. And here's why. If a friend of yours, if someone that's in that circle of influence becomes obese, you are 45% more likely to gain weight over the next 2 to 4 years. 45%, that's huge. But here's the scary bit for me, because you don't always know who your friends are hanging out with if you're not being conscious and deliberate about this. If a friend of your friend, who you don't even know yet, never even met, becomes obese, your likelihood of gaining weight over the next 2 to 4 years increases by about 20%. And it continues. This effect, this influence effect keeps going. If a friend of your friend develops obesity, then you're 10% more likely to gain weight over the next 2 to 4 years. So when we look at the study of that social influence, it's not just our average of our 5 people, it's the average of their 5 people and their 5 people too. So we need to be really, really careful about who we're letting influence us. And so how we're going to have a quick look at this and be more deliberate about it is to have a quick look at this model here. Now, this is a adjusted wheel of life. So it's a great way of sort of laying out all the areas of your life and kind of thinking about how it's all working for you. So I've got a little activity for you now. So I want you to hit me up in the group chat in just a moment. So this is a wheel of life. There's lots of models. I've adjusted this specifically for business life because that's what we're talking about. And so the 8 areas of business life that I've got there are leadership, family, wealth, well-being, expertise, business success, fun, and network. And some of you are sitting there and going, oh my God, Sarah, that is massively open to interpretation. And that's good. It's open to interpretation for a reason. My version and your version don't have to be the same. What you think leadership is and what I think leadership is do not have to be the same thing. What you think business success is might be different from me. For some people, wealth is about the things. It's about the big house and the big car and lots of money. For other people, wealth is about, I have the time to spend with the people I love and to go out and get out in nature. Everyone has a different version of what each of those words mean, but you need to think about it in terms of you. So I've got 2 questions. The first question is, of those 8 areas, looking at my wheel of business life, which area are you most satisfied with, and which area are you least satisfied with? And what I would love for you to do is to pop those 2 answers into the chat box. Now, if you don't want to tell everyone, you just want to tell me, that's no problem at all. Just send it privately to me. So give me some answers. Tell me, what are you most satisfied with and what are you least satisfied with on that wheel of business life, I am going to, as per usual, for those of you that have been to some of my events, I'm going to give you a little music while you make, I don't know how appropriate that is, but we'll roll with it for now. So I want you to think about it. Have a look and go, what area am I doing the most? It might help to think about what area would I give a 10 out of 10 and what area would I give a 0 out of 10? Those sorts of things. Cool. I'm getting some great answers in here. We've got the most, the well-being, leadership least. Cool. Least, next, networking. Awesome. Networking, satisfied with our networking. Most satisfied with family. Awesome. Least, wealth. Awesome. Well-being. Great. You guys are coming up with some great things. You're most satisfied with your well-being, which is a great thing right now. We want to have great well-being while we're in the middle of a pandemic. Some really cool answers there, team. Really cool answers. So you know what you're most satisfied with and what you're least satisfied with. Now, if you think about who's influencing you and what's influencing you, for the area that's fantastic in terms of network versus perhaps for some of you well-being, for some of you business success, for some of you who and what is influencing you there. So is it the media right now, which is having a massive influence over our life? Next to the rest. Awesome. Really cool options. Great job, team. So now think about who and what is influencing you. It's going to be the media. It's going to be the social media. It's going to be your friendships. It's going to be your business connections. It's going to be your family. And more than that, it's going to be, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you hanging out with? What are you consuming? And did you deliberately choose that? Or did it just happen naturally? And that's really, really normal if it's just happened naturally. Is it just that you just hang out with the people you went to school with because you went to school with them? That might have moved on now. It's likely that you hang out with the people you work with and your family. Or if you've got children, you might hang out with the parents of the kids in the same class as your child. And so we're not deliberate about choosing who we're spending time with. Now, if you have children, you'll all resonate with this, right? Because you all heard as children growing up, you don't hang out with that person. They're a bad influence. And we're really deliberate about who influences our children. You know, we want to cultivate their group of friends so that they have good influences around them. At what point did we stop being deliberate about our circle of influence and how it's impacting our life? So again, there's some few questions here. So if you didn't deliberately choose it, here's some questions. Are you getting a business advice from someone who has never owned a business? Are you getting property investment advice from someone who has never invested in property? Are you getting leadership advice from someone who doesn't show up as a leader? Really, really easy. Or are you not seeking any advice at all? Because right now is a time when we should be seeking advice. We should be looking for help. If you haven't led through a crisis before, if you haven't led through an economic plummeting of all things, you need to go and reach out and get some advice. You know, because right now you need yourself to lead, but you also need your team needs you to lead, your family needs you to lead, your community needs you to lead, and our country needs us to lead. Because if we don't stand up and lead our businesses through this, then our whole country is going to suffer in the long run. So it's really important. We need to show up. You know, I'm hearing examples of leaders in all sorts of different environments doing strange things. So I have another friend who's in the coaching world, and they had clients that are not showing up well presented on video calls, and they are either not showing up with their video on, and I know I've told you to turn yours off today, or they're doing strange things like this. Like if I was talking to you guys today with my screen like this, you would think it was a wee bit weird. People are doing things like that so that people can't see that they're not dressed for work and they're not got their makeup on. Craziness. That's not leadership. We've got to show up with leadership. So who's influencing us? And those people are having influence on key people in this crisis. It's really important about showing up. So if we were going to be deliberate about this, whoops, sorry team. Flicking through everything. Right. So if we were thinking about this being deliberate and creating a deliberate business owner's circle of influence, what would we do? Who do you need to add into your circle of influence? And who do you need to remove out? Now, don't tell me and don't comment in the comments, just in case somebody knows each other in here. We would not like to offend anyone or upset anyone in there if we can avoid it. Now, this might not be people, and remembering that right now we're in New Zealand anyway, we're self-isolating with just our family, just our bubble in New Zealand. So we don't have a lot of ability to change right now the people we're physically spending time with. So right now I want you to be thinking about, could it be a podcast or a book instead of a show on Netflix? If you're Netflixing, chilling right now and watching, it's the pandemic. I don't even know if the pandemic's a movie or a show, but if you're watching a show and instead of reading a book or watching a podcast or listening to a podcast, maybe you could change that out. Could you, instead of spending all your time scrolling through Facebook and looking at the really funny quarantine self-isolation memes that are coming out, could you be doing an online training? So what do you need to take out and what do you need to put in? Now, remembering that you have to do both. You cannot add more in without taking something out. Okay, super important. I have too many Zoom meetings and Facebook Lives to watch Netflix. Yeah, there's certainly that going on at the moment. Zoom is getting a hammering. So who do you need to put in? Who do you need to take out? Is it a podcast or a book instead of a show? Is it an online training instead of scrolling? Is it reducing the number of Zoom meetings and connections that you're doing? Are they with the right people? I mean, if it's for work, you might not get to choose and change. But if you are deciding to go on these Zoom meetings and do these things, are they with the right people right now? One of the things right now that's really important, and for me in terms of timing, it was never intended again that I was going to launch this program during a pandemic, but it's just perfect. It gives me so many perfect examples. Right now we've got the media, and the media's job is to inform us, but it also is filled with opinion and drama and all that stuff that's kind of going on out there, versus the government announcements, which are very I don't want to say dry because it's the wrong word, but they're very factual. They're giving us the information we need, just what we need to know, without any opinion or drama around it. The only time that you start to see those drama levels ramp up is when you see the media start to ask their questions. So write down who you are adding into your, oops. Sorry, I'm having real technical difficulties here. I'm trying to get to the chat to see what's going on here. Oh, sorry, team. Right. What are you adding into your circle? Write down who or what you're adding into your circle. Again, don't share in the chat box with us. Write it down on your notes. And write down who or what you're removing from your circle of influence. Now, again, I've raced through lots of those questions and those suggestions. So again, I'm going to send you out a little worksheet that allows you to do your wheel of business life, give it a little rating, and then work out who's in that circle of influence and what you need to change, and the things as well, the things that you're consuming, the books, the movies, the shows too. So write down who or what you're adding in and who or what you're removing. You have to do both. You can't just add things in, because you will end up with an overfull life and you'll just be busy. Now, I am not saying stop watching all the Netflix. I'm not saying stop doing all the scrolling. What I'm suggesting is making one simple, small change. So if you're watching Netflix every day, that's okay. then let's just drop Wednesday out of the equation. And instead on Wednesday, let's listen to a podcast that's going to be really valuable to help me show up as a great business owner or business leader in crisis. You know, find someone who's been through challenging times before and connect with them, because they survived it and they thrived through it. They're going to be a great person to be talking to right now. And maybe decide that you're not going to watch all the media, that you're just going to watch the government announcements and maybe the 6 o'clock news, not the 6 a.m., the 9 a.m., the 1 p.m. and the 3 p.m. announcement and the 6 p.m. news. Because I'll be honest, I'm really deliberate about this stuff. But if I watched all of that, I'd be feeling anxious and overwhelmed and stressed right now. And that's none of the things that I choose to feel. So I want to take those influences out of my life and just do a little bit each day. You've got the grand total of 26 days left. So we can have a massive amount of improvement in that time if we just make these small changes. Because if you try and do everything all at once, if you try and go, I'm going to 100% cut all those bad influences out today, you'll fall off the wagon. Just like if I went, I'm never going to eat chocolate again, I'm totally going to fall off the wagon. So same thing when you're amending and changing and creating that deliberate circle of influence for you as a business owner. Investing. It's a hot topic, certainly from what I've seen online and on the media. People were, as this virus was unfolding around the world, watching our KiwiSaver balances tank, particularly if you're in them all the time. Don't stay in your KiwiSaver, just leave it alone. I saw a great comment that is, your KiwiSaver is just like your face right now, don't touch it. And I'm having a very hard time not touching my face. It's a bit like not hugging. If you're a hugger right now, you're really struggling with the whole don't hug people. And we've removed that problem by sending me home, but that's really challenging. But your investment is really, really important. And when we talk about money, it's really important that we are investing in some stocks and shares, that we're investing in our future. But what if I told you there was something more important to invest than your money? It's your time, focus, and energy. Ultimately, that might turn into some money, because we can always go and get more money. There's always more out there. Like right now, we're doing all sorts of things. Governments around the world are doing all sorts of things to create more money. As small business owners, did you ever think that you would get given money to pay your wages? You know, that's just something it's never happened in my 12 years in business. I don't know about the rest of you, but I imagine it hasn't happened for too many of you in your businesses either. So we can always go and find more money. We can always go and get more money, so long as we spend our time wisely, our focus wisely, and our energy wisely on the right things at the right time. So how do we do this investing? I want you to think about time and money. And I want you to think about the 5 things that you can do with both, because it will give you some really good ideas about what we can do to invest our time. So tell me, what can you do? What are the 5 things that you can do with money and with time? Pop them in the chat box for me. Let's see what you can all come up with. What can you come up with? Give me 5 answers. What are the 5 things you can do with both time and money? I've given you one of the answers already. Tell me in the chat box what you got. Spend it. Yes, Rebecca, you can totally spend it. Not just on kids, but on all sorts of things. What else have you got? That's 1. Save it. Beautiful. Invest it. Upskill. Yep. Awesome. That would be a form of upskilling, would be a form of investing or something else. Self-improvement, upskill, self-improvement, wellness. Could they be, what other word could we think about it? You could waste it. Spend, invest, save. Missing 2. If you're someone who volunteers or is a lose it, that's like spending. It's another word for spending, Jack. Donate. Awesome, Graham. So you can give. You can give your money and your time away. There's one. It's a tricky one. Some of you have sort of, by saying upskill and, well-being and innovate. Really having technical difficulties here, aren't I? Sorry, team. If you're broke, donating time feels better. Oh, learn. Yeah, so learn is another word for leverage your time. So you can spend your time and your money. You can give your time or your money. You can save your time and your money. You can invest your time and money, or you can leverage it. Leverage it when it comes to time and money is learning some new skills and tools, maybe using technology smarter, maybe outsourcing, maybe employing some employees that will help with that sort of stuff. So those are the 5 things that are the same. So when you think about how you're using your money, you want to think about how you use your time in the same way. And particularly as small business owners, we're really good at going, I'm just going to do it myself because it's cheaper to do it myself than to pay someone else. And I'll tell you that's just absolutely a myth, because you're so much more valuable often than doing the $20 an hour jobs in your business. So we really want to make sure that you're leveraging it and working your way through things like that. Because you can always create more wealth, you can always create more money, but you can't buy more time easily. So let's do a little check-in with what's going on. Let's put your life, where you're investing your time, focus, and energy, under the microscope. So we're going to go old school here for a minute. If I had someone follow you around last week and they were doing a wee time and motion study of you, which is really old school, and they were seeing where you were spending your time, energy, and focus on, and they could see into your brain and see what you were thinking about, because that's focus as well, that takes energy as well. What would they have identified as the 3 things you spent the most time, energy, and focus on? Hit me up. Tell me in the columns, in the chat box, what were the 3 things you spent the most time, energy, and focus on in the past 7 days? Really honestly. I know I had to keep pulling myself back from getting dragged into the pandemic updates. We've got family on the other side of the world, and so we've been watching it unfold for a number of weeks, and it's just got worse and worse. So I know I've certainly been guilty of absorbing a whole lot of media. Kirsty, paperwork, phone calls, and emails. Yeah. I imagine you're getting lots of phone calls at this time with everything that's going on. Really, really easy to get stuck into that stuff and spend a whole lot of time there. Some of you might have spent a whole lot of time in the last 7 days moving, connecting with family and friends. Cool. Decisions, messages, phone calls, family. Awesome. You know, and were they positive focuses and energy? You know, were you being positive about the actions you could take? So concern about family and business, trying to service customer needs, frustrated by reply all emails. Oh my goodness, what is it with when everybody gets moved home to work from home with the reply all? Too much Facebook, customer calls, emails, solutions, and options. Yeah, Jeff, you're in a world where you have just got people probably on the phones going, what's going on and how can you help me? Which is challenging, but also great because that they've got someone like you to reach out and help. So really, really important that we're aware of what we're spending the most time, energy, and focus on. And so if we looked at that, and I talk about it in terms of your calendar, some of you might talk about it in terms of your schedule, some of you might not record all of it, but if you recorded exactly what you did every minute of every day for the last 7 days, and in some worlds we do, if we're an accountant or a lawyer or somewhere we're charging our time out, we might record it. It reflects our current identity and our current priorities. And so I saw some of you talking about family and some of you talking about dealing with clients. That's a reflection of your current identity and priorities. And again, we want to look at this and be really, really clear. Does this calendar reflect the identity you want and the priorities you need to have right now to get the results you desire? You know, we talk about taking the actions and getting the results. Where we spend our time, the actions we take, the energy we spend focusing on something, is going to get us the right actions. So that last 7 days has been a reflection of your current identity and priorities. Are they the right ones now going forward? Because now's the time. And you can joke about this a little bit. Like I see all the memes that are coming out now where people are saying, I feel sorry for the husbands that have said to their wife, when I get the, I'll get to that when I have the time. And now they've been self-isolated for 28 days minimum. We're all at home and locked down with our families. Now you got the time to do all that stuff around the house. And I don't know about you, but I've certainly been guilty of saying, I'll get to that. Even though it's an important, amazing thing to work on in my life or my business, I'll get to that when I have the time. I was talking to a client yesterday, and we were talking about having the time now. And this client said this to me: I'm not wasting this opportunity. I've wanted for at least a decade. She was talking about having some time to do some stuff. And it's taken a pandemic for me to take action, to actually do these things I've been wanting to do for a decade. For 10 years, these were actions that she's wanting to be taken. Fucking ridiculous when I think about it. Took a pandemic to make her look and go, what were the really important things that I wanted to spend my time on, that I wanted to use my calendar for, that I wanted to schedule into my life? I've put them off for sometime in the future, and I haven't done them. And it's taken a pandemic to make her stop and think about what she wants to do. And so this client decided now's the time that she's going to invest her time, focus, and energy really, really wisely. And so she sat down and created a schedule. Now, some of you are looking at this and going, clearly no kids, because there's no homeschooling in there, and she doesn't have any children, not anymore. They've moved out. But she is being really deliberate about what is her time, focus, and energy going on in the next 7, 14, 21, and 28 days. How is she going to keep her business going? How is she going to keep herself going? Because at home is really, really easy to get drawn into all the things that you couldn't see when you were off to the office. I certainly know I do. I've never been so worried about my house being clean and tidy as I have in the last 24 hours since we've been locked in at home. So creating a plan and taking your time and being deliberate about what you do right now is going to be really important, because you've got the time. Because for most of us, we're not dealing with clients and their urgent responses. There are some of you in here that are essential services that will be dealing with clients. We will have had some urgent priority stuff that's come up in the last week as we recognize that our businesses are being shut down. And for some of us, that means we can't generate any income. For others, it means that we can still generate income, but we have to pivot and think differently. So there's been some urgent stuff. And now we have to think about how deliberately are we going to use our time, invest our time to come out the other side smart. And some of those questions about influence come into these questions as well. So if those things were influencing us were Netflix and chill, all the news, Facebook scrolling, now's the time to be deliberate about. I'm okay to have some time. You can see this particular client is going to sleep with the help of shit TV. So, it's okay to have it, dinner and chill. It's okay not to be on all the time, but you also need to be deliberate about how you're going to do it. So, again, those of you that know me well know I love this homework stuff. I want you to write down for yourself. And again, I'm going to send you out a worksheet. So these 3 bits of homework, they all come with a wee worksheet. So if you're not getting it done while we're here on the call together, we can talk about it later. I want you to write down 3 actions you will do each day to ensure you rise up out of this current environment. So these are the things you're going to do in your business. Because we've all been talking about it. Like Johnny and we've talked about, this marketing strategy and that marketing strategy and this work on the website and this program that we want to do. And Johnny had a whole list of maintenance jobs that he was like, I'm going to get to those on the boat. Not quite able to do that at the moment, but we will do it. We really, really want to do those things we've been talking about for ages that we know would be amazing for our business, that we know would be amazing for our lives, but we haven't had time. So I want you to write down 3 actions that you will do each day to ensure your business rises up out of this current environment. Is it checking in every day with your team? Is it checking in with certain clients that are really important to you? Is it making plans for how you can capitalize on this as we come out of this and we're not in lockdown in our houses anymore if you're not an essential service. If you're an essential service, how are you looking after yourself, because you are run off your feet right now, because the only reason you're an essential service is because you're going to be crazy busy. And then I want you to write down 3 actions you're going to do each day to keep yourself fit, well, and healthy. So you can show up in your identity for yourself, your family, your team, our community, and even your country, because this is going to change the face of New Zealand as we know it, of the world as we know it. And how are we showing up as leaders? Because we desperately need leaders right now. I don't know about you guys, but when I walked through my community over the last 7 to 10 days, there were a lot of pale, panicked, possum-looking faces that just had no idea what was going on. Now is not the time to be a possum in the headlights. Now is not the time to be an ostrich with your head in the sand. Now is the time to be deliberate about who you are being. What actions are you taking so you can get the results you need to have right now on a day-by-day basis, so that your relationships with the people you're bubbling with stay strong and loving and kind, and also that your business rises up out of this really, really strongly as well. We really want to do all of these things. We want to be deliberate about what's our inner game. We want to be deliberate about what is influencing me. We want to be deliberate about what we're investing our time, energy, and focus in, because that will allow us to leave our foot on the accelerator and take our foot off the brake and start moving forward. And so these are the 3 key pillars that you need to know about your business owner's identity. There are some tools that prop these things up. And so I'm going to talk to you about what these tools are and sort of a couple of quick things that you can do with each of these tools. We haven't got long enough to go into each of them in a whole lot of detail. So I'm going to talk about, if you want more, if you need more, I'm going to talk about what's available for you afterwards. I will send you a 1-page sheet with some questions and the points I'm going to make here about these business tools, so you've got all of that too. So again, I know I talk really fast. I know I've given you a lot of information in a short space of time, but I do want you to have what you need going forward. So I am going to send you a worksheet for each of the homework, and I'll send you a short worksheet on your business owner tools and how you can bring those into your daily practice, weekly practice, monthly practice over this time and going forward. So I am talking about this with reference to the pandemic and kind of what's going on right now. But just remember that these things will help you thrive. These things will help you be successful in your life and business, no matter what's going on. Because I want you to be leaders that people are looking at, business owners that people are looking at going, man, they were calm under pressure. It was a crisis. The whole world was burning around us, and these guys showed up. These guys were deliberate. They were calm. They were confident. They were empathetic. They made great decisions, and they helped their clients in the most phenomenal way. These people have been amazing. What were they doing? And the stuff that you're doing is working on your business owner's identity and then supporting it with these tools. And so we've talked a little bit about the quality of your life and the quality of your business being a reflection and determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. There's a key bit to that. You have to answer them too, right? There's no point going, oh, that's a nice thought-provoking, challenging question. I don't think I want to answer that. So what we want to do is we want to take our thought-provoking, challenging questions and put them into a process called thinking time. And so I've given you some exercises today that are a little bit like thinking time, but thinking time's a really deliberate tool. Any business owner, any leader in any part of in our industry or our community organization should be doing this, but particularly us business owners, we need to stop and think. Business is an intellectual game. It's not an emotional sport. And I certainly, if I look back through business, every time I made thought out, rational decisions based on the data, I made good decisions and got great results. Every time I've made an emotional decision, I could tell you about some doozies where I thought this would be fun, or I was under stress and pressure, and so I panicked and did something, or spoke out of turn, or spoke unkindly to people. I had not thought, and I was acting from a place of uncontrolled emotions rather than stopping and thinking and responding. And so thinking time is a quiet, sacred place, which might be more difficult for some of you than others, where you're going to take 5 to 10 minutes. Look, daily would be awesome, but even if you did it twice a week would be rock star, to sit down with a pen and paper. Perhaps you set up yourself with a thinking time journal, she says, trying to grab your journal. So grab a book that is, get a book that's going to be a thinking time journal. You're going to grab your book and a pen in a quiet space where you can shut the door and not be interrupted. No screens, no music, nothing. You're going to set a timer for however long you've decided to do thinking time for, 5 to 10 minutes, and you're going to take a question, a thought-provoking question. You're going to get some, obviously, in the worksheets today that I've worked through, and I'm going to email out to you later today. And you're going to write the question down at the top of your journal, and then you're going to answer the question, writing it down. Overwhelm's created when we keep everything in our brain and there's too much of it. So we want to take it out of our brain and start writing it down. When I'm working with clients, people that are stressed and worried and overwhelmed and anxious and have got too much going on, they've got this massive to-do list, their shoulders are up around their ears, we can work through that literally sometimes just by writing that out, writing what needs to be done, creating a plan of action. So thinking time is about answering the questions that you need to answer down on paper. And these are working through the questions that you didn't know needed to be asked or didn't want to be asked often. If you think, oh, I don't want to answer that question, that's the one. Lean in there. That's the thinking time question we're all after. In the foundation program, I'm actually going to have an entire, well, I have, should I say, an entire question bank full of thought-provoking questions that I've kind of collected from all resources all over the world, from all the personal development work I've done, all the coaches I've worked with, and over the last 4 years, because coaching is lots of great quality questions, thought-provoking questions for your clients. And so the whole idea of the question bank is to kind of give you a coach in your computer that you can dive into and grab the question out for the right topic at the right time. The second thing you need to have is a vision. And I really advocate having a vision for your life and a vision for your business, because I want my clients to create a business that serves their life. Right now, you might need to have a shorter term vision. You might need to know, how are we going to show up? How are we going to act? How are we going to come out of this pandemic phase? How are we going to come out of lockdown? How are we going to come out of the next 3 to 6 to 12 months as we see the changing things? And we might have to nudge and adjust that purely because things are changing all the time. We don't know what it's going to look like. How long are we going to be on lockdown? Is everyone going to follow the rules? The data is changing all the time. As the data changes, we might have to tweak the vision. But it gives you a really great destination to work towards, because here's the thing, you can't use a GPS if you don't have a destination. And so there's no point doing any of the other tools, doing any of the other activities if you don't have a vision for where you want to go. And then we can realign with it. It gives us something to go, if that's the destination, I can now realign with that as we're going through the days and weeks and months ahead as things change. The third tool you must have is planning, and I've kind of alluded to that back in invest and where you're going to invest your time, energy, and focus. You'll see that the client that I was working with yesterday has come up with a really clear plan for her days while she's in lockdown, while she's in isolation. That's come out of her vision for what she wants to have her life and her businesses, multiple businesses in her case, look like when she comes out the other side of the pandemic. She wants to still have a team that is connected with her. So she's got in her plan to connect with them. She wants to have done some work on her upskilling herself and getting more skills and tools throughout this time. You know, if there's any programs that you thought you wanted to do and you've never had time to do, those online courses that you've bought and never completed, now's the time. You've got the time to go and do the work. And then the last and the other reason that this planning is really important right now is that in business, we often have fires, but right now it feels like there's fires everywhere. And it's really, really easy to confuse activity with productivity. And so I don't want you to be working all the hours. I want you to be really productive. I want you to be deliberate about what emails you're responding to. I want you to be deliberate about what you're spending your time on. Because like it's really easy to come home and go, oh, there's all that paperwork that I've never filed. I should now file it away and make my office all nice and tidy. That's activity. That's not productivity. So we want to make sure we're being really productive. And there are some bonuses to being self-isolated because there are things that can't pop up. For us in tourism, we have 0 guests, 0 customers to deal with. We have a few to deal with that are long ranging out in the future, but right here, right in front of us, those things that often become urgent because they're standing right in front of you, waving their hands, they're not there. So we can be far more deliberate about the productivity stuff that we're doing right now. So we want to be planning our time out. So you want to think about what you're going to do today for next week. So don't think about what you're going to do on Monday at 9:30 or 10 o'clock when you finally roll out of bed on Monday morning. We want you to decide today what Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week look like. And if you're going to have to work through the weekend, decide now what Saturday and Sunday looks like. Decide what it looks like for your family as well. You know, how are you guys going to get out into nature? How are you guys going to get some exercise? How are you going to manage homeschooling? How are you going to keep food happening? Who's going to do the shopping? Like, have a plan right now. It's really important. So I'll send you out some short little tidbits of how to plan your week for next week. It doesn't have to be a tattoo. It's not, you know, and those of you that have worked with me before know I talk about planning, but it has to be adaptive, you know, like I've got a whole year plan that a lot of it's got to be pulled off the wall and started again because a whole lot of my leadership and coaching and training workshops are cancelled through to June, end of June. And so I've got all this time back. So I'm rethinking and replanning. So what does that look like for you? And then lastly, is communication. So I've been through primary, secondary, and tertiary education, and nowhere was I taught how to communicate with people. Nowhere was I taught about the styles of communication, the way that my face-to-face communication impacts people, the way that my emails communicate with people. You know, things like a business colleague posted on LinkedIn the other day, must remember, emails do not have a tone. You know, words on a page do not have a tone. And it's skills like that that you're going to need, those tools you're going to need right now about communication. So there's not much point doing all the thinking, all the visioning, and all the planning if you can't communicate that kindly, lovingly, and assertively to your family, because you're going to need to set some boundaries about how things are going to work in terms of spaces, in terms of time, of how things are going to work over the next 28 days, 26 days now. You know, how are we going to do that? So I went to university. I did a business degree. It had a communications paper, but it was mostly talking about media and PR. It did not talk about how to communicate with others. So think really deliberately about how you want to use your words, how you want to use your tone, and how you want to use your body language right now, whether it's over video, like I'm talking to you guys now, whether it's over the phone, or whether it's in person with your loved ones at home. You need to be really, really important. Sorry, you really focused on communication. It's really important right now. So those are the 4 business tools, and I'm going to send you out a little snippet on each of those so that you can take some action after this webinar today. And for some of you sitting there, you're sitting there going, oh my God, she just gave us so much stuff. What am I doing with that? Others of you are sitting there going, awesome, that's great, but I need more. I need more help. I need more support. And for many of you, I've talked about it a couple of times, it feels like everything's on fire and there's loads of information, loads of tactics, loads of strategy out there right now. Everybody's telling us, do this, do this, do this, do this. These are the tasks you need to do. And so you know exactly what actions you need to do, which is the accelerator. So you're like, yep, I know I need to go and do that, but you've got your foot on the brake still. If you want some extra help taking your foot off the brake, I would love to help you out. Now, this program is to launch on the 1st of April. I'm doing my absolute utmost to have it completely tweaked and ready to go on Monday morning now, because I think it's just invaluable to business owners right now that they have a clear list of priorities, what they're doing, and the tools to take action on them right now. Because what hasn't yet been exposed, we've only been home for sort of 24, 36 hours right now, is for all of us, is our bad habits, the rituals, the lack of personal discipline, the distractions that we've got going on in our world. And because we've moved back home, a lot of that support and accountability is lost. So I want to give you guys all the support you can. If you're in my free group, I'm going to be popping up in there every now and then. I'm going to keep doing some live Q&As once once or twice every fortnight or so. I'm going to keep dropping in some resources in there. But if you think you want some more face-to-face time, more support and accountability, then I've got a little offer for you today. The foundation was supposed to get launched 1st of April. I am doing my absolute utmost to have it launched on Monday now. Some of you have already up, so that's awesome. It's an online program. It's got the videos, it's got the worksheets and the activity. It's also got monthly group coaching calls and access to a private group of business owners where we're going to constantly be working on our business owner's identity. It's going to give you the thinking, the tools, the thinking time, the vision, the planning, and the communication. It's going to give you all the skills and tools that you need in terms to use that toolbox. And it will also give you access to a group of business owners that, just like you, really want to have this solid foundation so that they can survive through this crisis and then really rise up out the other side. You know, the hunkering down is important, but rising up out the other side is really important too. And for my founding members, I was going to do that for $599. But given everything that's happened, I am throwing that completely out the window today, because now more than any other time, we need our business owners, our business leaders to be strong. I'm going to give you all of what I talked about. I'm stepping up the group coaching calls. They're going to be weekly during the lockdown in New Zealand. They're going to start on Monday. You're going to have access to the private group of business owners as well, and I'm getting rid of the $599, and it's just going to be $99 over 4 weekly payments. So I'm getting rid of $200 of cost, and I'm giving you weekly calls until we're out of lockdown. So I don't care how long this lasts. If it's just the 4 weeks they've originally told us, then it's just 4 weeks. But if it's 6, if it's 8, if it's 12, if it's 26, I hope not. I hope everyone's following the rules and staying home, so that's not the case. I'm going to be on weekly calls with you. You can come on and ask questions. We're going to walk you through the process of building out this foundation and making sure you have all the support you need right now to do whatever it is you need to do in your business and in your life, so that you come out the other side. Because I know now more than anything that it's really, really important to take your foot off the brake. Because if you're driving around with your foot on the brake and the foot on the accelerator right now, you're not going to get done the things you need to get done. You're not going to show up the way that you need to show up, so that you can come out of this surviving through this. And the reason I know this is because we went through the GFC, and we bought our business in December 2007. So if any of you remember, the GFC hit New Zealand pretty strongly about March 2008, and then carried on from there. At that time, I was young. I was 24, 25, didn't have a clue. We'd borrowed all the money, and I mean all the money, to buy our business. It was just under $1 million at 13.5% interest. And we got through that purely through naivety, I guess. We didn't watch the news, we didn't read, we didn't listen to people. I actually laughed at people that told us we were going to go bankrupt. I mean, how ridiculous. That would never happen. We're just going to do the work and we'll be fine. And we paid off $1 million while the world around us was burning. And the reason that we were able to do that is because we were calm, we were confident, we were passionate about what we were doing, and we had vibrancy. We had our absolute business owner's identity on, absolutely out of ignorance at the time, out of youth, out of energy, and out of passion for what we're doing, because we'd chosen something we really loved. This time around, I'm channeling those things. I'm being really deliberate about what I learned then, and I've got many, many crises and challenges. We've been through swine flu, we've been through SARS. You know, what do I need to have to show up? And that's why this time around I can be calm and confident. Like 3 weeks ago, when they announced the 14-day isolation, is it 3 weeks now? 2.5 weeks. We lost 100% of our business in 24 hours in the Rock. And how I'm showing up has made a much bigger difference to how we're able to get through it and out the other side. There's so much that's out of my control. You know, if the country stays shut down in their houses for 12 months, you know, that's out of my control. But the things I do have control over, I've taken action on and I've put it in place, which gives me the freedom and the time to show up more readily for you guys to provide you with this support. So if you want more, there is more coming. I will send out the worksheets to you today, and And I will also send you out some links if you want to jump into